Good day, Dr. Zawari. I'm Ruhan. My matric number is 154601. The topic I'm going to present today is supply chain finance-based SMEs financing in China. Let us begin with Chapter 1, Introduction. SMEs financing is a critical component of China's economic development. However, numerous challenges cut off their access to finance. Supply chain finance has emerged as an innovation solution providing SMEs with a more flexible, cost-effective, efficient, and risk-controlled financing method. By leveraging the assets and creditworthiness of core supply chain enterprise, SMEs can overcome the barriers that limited their growth and innovation, unlocking their potential and contributing to the country's economic prosperity. The questions of the research being studied are designed as below. First, how SMEs in China can use supply chain finance to solve their financing problem. Second, how supply chain finance under the account receivable mode is solving the financing problem of SMEs in China. In addition, how supply chain finance under the prepayment mode is solving the financing problem of SMEs in China. What's more, what are the benefits to each stakeholders of participating in supply chain finance? Lastly, what are the advantages of supply chain finance compared to traditional financing method? The objective of the study are to investigate the utilization of supply chain finance by SMEs in China as a solution to their financing problem and identify effective strategies for its implementation, specifically under the account receivable mode and prepayment mode. Also, to explore and evaluate the benefits experienced by various stakeholders, including SMEs, core enterprise, and financial institutions through their participation in supply chain finance program. And the objective also include compare analysis and advantages of supply chain finance in relation to traditional financing method. The research aimed to bridge this knowledge gap by investigating the utilization of supply chain finance by SMEs in China, evaluating how the account receivable mode addressed their financing challenges and improved their financial situations, and assessing the effectiveness of the prepayment mode in solving their financing issues. Now let's move on to Chapter 2, Literature Review. Extensive research has been conducted on supply chain finance and its impact on SMEs financing in China. Abasi in 2018 emphasized that supply chain finance can improve the liquidity of SMEs, enhance their financial stability, and provide them with timely access to working capital. According to the specific business process, industrial chain finance can be divided into three modes: account receivable modes, inventory pledge mode, and prepayment mode. Wang said in 2020, the account receivable financing mode refers to a financing business in which SMEs pledge their account receivable arising from genuine transactions contracts with other enterprise in the supply chain, with the guarantee of the core enterprise in order to obtain the necessary funds for their production and operation activities. Under this mode, the receivable under the transactions contract are used as a direct source of repayment, and if the financing companies default on its payment, the core company that guaranteed it will cover the losses incurred by banks and other financial institutions. At the same time, when banks and other financial institutions provide financing services, they still need to assess the risk of the financed enterprise. But in this case, they mainly assess the SME services and the operation of the entire supply chain. Duan in 2022 suggested the prepayment financing business is a business established by the bank to grasp the information of each part of the supply chain and coordinate the relationship between the various parts. By providing guarantee to SMEs, core enterprise strengthen their cooperation with SMEs, thus expanding the sales of core enterprise. Banks provide financing to SMEs under the primes of core enterprise guarantees, formatting a new profit growth point. Next, let's talk about methodology. Researchers employ quantitative methodology by interviewing supervisors from SMEs, DL, and HC that have been effectively financed through supply chain finance. Due to the privacy requirements of both companies, the real name of the company will not be disclosed. The research population for the study consists of SMEs in China that are facing financing challenges. To gain a better understanding of the research objectives and to provide in-depth insight into the effectiveness of supply chain finance, the researcher has chosen these companies as the research sample. Company DL. Main business is the production of transformers. DL has established itself as a crucial supplier to Group B, a large state-owned enterprise. However, with the rising price of raw material, DL has current situation of higher financing costs. Group B identified the problem of DL and employment supply chain finance. Group B's own trust companies make flexible financing and flow arrangements between different enterprises upstream of the supply chain, reasonably reduce the DL company's financing cost, quickly and efficiently realize the account receivable, and speed up the operation of the supply chain capital flow, thereby minimizing the financial cost of the whole supply chain. Company HC main business is the wholesale of mobile phones, and it's a contract dealer of Huawei. However, with the overexpansion of Huawei, the company does not have a large amount of monetary capital. At this moment, Everbuy Bank introduced the prepayment mode in supply chain finance to HC. HC's upstream company is Huawei, which has a large scale, strong assets, and good credit. Everbuy Bank signed agreements with HC, Huawei, and the logistic enterprise respectively. After HC paid a certain deposit to Everbuy Bank, it issued a bank draft to Huawei. Huawei handed over the goods to the third-party logistic enterprise for supervision according to Everbuy Bank's regulation. Then HC delivered the goods. In the case that HC cannot repay Everbuy Bank's funds at the due date, Huawei will repurchase the goods. Now let's have a look on fundings. This research paper analyzed the effect of DL supply chain finance implementation by comparing the accounting and financial indicators of Group B, consolidated finance data, and DL consolidated finance data and parent company's finance data. Based on the operating characteristics and the core conditions of the power industry, this paper analyzed the effects of supply chain finance on the implementation of DL's assets turnover efficiency, operating cost, and profitability through three indicator system, namely operating efficiency, operating cost, and operating performance. Among them, operational efficiency includes inventory turnover days, account receivable turnover days, account payable turnover days, and cash conversion cycles. Operating costs including finance costs and the proportion of the three expenses: cost of goods sold, operating expense, and financial expense. Operating performance includes growth of profit margin and operating profit margin. In summary, by analyzing the changes in financial indicators for Group B DL companies as a whole and the parent company between 2015 to 2019, it can be seen that DL's participation in the supply chain finance modes has optimized both its financial positions and the operating capabilities. For the core enterprise Group B, it is less affected by micro factors and has a stable control over the operation rhythm of upstream enterprise, which plays a positive role in the stability of the industry and is conducive to the optimizations and upgrading of the industrial chain as a whole and its suitable development. HC successfully financed itself through prepayment modes by using the core enterprise in the supply chain. Huawei is in the position of a core enterprise in the supply chain, and if all the enterprises are considered as 1 plus N, Huawei is 1 in the 1 plus N, while HC is one of the N upstream and downstream enterprise in the core enterprise Huawei. The bank clearly recognized the importance of the core enterprise Huawei when it made a judgment on HC's loan request. HC is a typical SME. Its supplier and downstream enterprise are in a long-term stable state. In addition, Huawei, as upstream enterprise of HC, has a good operating performance and financial status, and has in effect provided guarantee for HC's loans, making the risk of ever buybacks greatly reduced. Lastly, I'm going to explain the discussion in Chapter 5. Accounts receivable financing allows SMEs to leverage their receivable as collateral to obtain financing from financial institutions instead of waiting for customers to settle their invoice. SMEs can sell their accounts receivable to financial institutions at a discount, receiving immediate cash flow to fund their operations. The prepayment mode in supply chain finance involves SMEs receiving upfront prepayment from buyers for future goods or services. This arrangement enables SMEs to access immediate working capitals, addressing their financing needs and enhancing their cash flow positions. By receiving prepayments, SMEs can meet their operational expenses, invest in growth initiatives, and reduce their reliance on external borrowing. Through supply chain finance, it is not only possible to meet the financing needs of SMEs, but also bring many financial benefits to the core enterprise and financial institutions in the supply chain. Supply chain finance provides enhanced access to financing, reduced financing cost, improved operating expense, uh, risk mitigation compared to traditional finance. The limitation for this study is it's only focused on specific industry DL and HC when analyzing the practical application of supply chain finance. Future studies should adopt a broader industry perspective to explore the applicability and effectiveness of supply chain finance across various sectors. Another limitation of the study lies is its primary focus on the supply chain finance from the perspective of SMEs. Future study could use a multi-stakeholders approach in cooperating the perspective of financial institutions, core enterprise, and other relevant companies. In conclusion, supply chain finance offers a promising solutions to the financing difficulties faced by SMEs. By promoting the collaboration within the supply chain, it can foster the growth and development of SMEs while improving the overall efficiency of supply chain ecosystem. However, further research and collaborative efforts are necessary to explore its broader application, overcome limitations, and realizing its full potential in supporting the financing needs of SMEs. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening.